Number 18 in the 42 ideas on leadership is about trust. Now, specifically, we're going to be talking about Trust Rules, a book written by Bob Lee and published in 2017. This book is on the basis of almost 2 million responses from many thousands of companies, and together they have created 16 rules. Some of the ideas in this book are that generally employees don't leave an organization, they leave their managers. And when they stay, it's often because their manager who keeps them there. So the idea here is that if the manager can build up trust with the employees, they will stay. Next thing is that high trust organizations attract and keep top talent, innovate more and better, give higher quality service and deliver stronger financial performance. These are the arguments in favor of building a high trust organization and why managers should think about developing trust. Of course, the idea here is that not when you're trying to be a manager, it shouldn't be trying to find the perfect manager, but in being the perfect manager. So therefore, if you're talking about building trust in an organization, you shouldn't be thinking about, do you trust your manager, but do the people underneath you trust you? Now, again, even though there's been 2 million responses, this is part of an even bigger survey, which was started back in 1984 by Levering and Moskowitz, two journalists who wrote a book called The 100 Best Companies to Work For in America. And they discovered there were 3 elements: trust, pride, and camaraderie that were necessary for these 100 best companies. So one of the areas then where Bob Lee decided to focus on was trust. He was working with Levering and Moskowitz, and then he went on to develop specifically the idea of trust himself. First idea of the 16 rules on trust is to trust first. You have to take the first step. If you're a leader, you have to trust first. You must trust them before they trust you. Naturally enough, within reason. You should live with integrity. This means you must be true to your word. You have to stand for something, and you have to be what you expect your followers to be. You should keep your promises. One of the lines I like from the book is, promises are like babies. They're easy to make, but they're hard to deliver. And Bob Lee says that we should basically try to avoid making promises where possible, because broken promises, especially the small ones, destroy trust. However, if we do have to give a promise, then we should clarify it, write it down for ourselves, and the moment we discover that we're not going to be able to deliver, we have to make this clear to the person we've made the promise to. We should be approachable and easy to talk to. Well, part of this means maybe management by walking around, that we have to be available for people. It also means that effective two-way communication, it's essential. Now, one of the ideas here as well is that it's not just about having an open door. Bob Lee says it's also about having an open mind. I would even go further and say it's about having open ears, because he also makes the point that we need to be good listeners if we're going to be leaders. We must give straight answers, direct answers, even when it's information that the employee or the follower might not like. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to give them all the information that they're looking for, but if we're not going to give them information, we should also make this clear. We might say that we're sorry, but we're not in a position to give that information at present, or we're not at liberty to give that information. Next area is the next rule. That's number 6. Seek and respond to suggestions and ideas. Mean that we should be open, ask open questions, and then we should encourage our followers to come up with new ideas themselves. But then we have to give feedback, which is constructive, truthful, and sensitive. So it's 2 areas. We have to ask open questions and encourage ideas, but then we have to give feedback on those ideas when they're provided. Bob Lee says that a lot of the pain happens not because of the change in an organization, because change is inevitable, but the fact that people are not involved in the process of that change. So what he suggests is that we should let them have a say in what's happening, and we should involve them in the process. Now, again, he makes it very clear that involving them in the process does not mean that we're talking about collective decision making. The leader has to take the final decision. Sometimes, of course, as well, the employee or the follower does not even want to be involved in the decision process. We have to take that into account as well. make your expectations clear. Not only do we have to use the SMART goals, which we've mentioned before, but we have to be clear about what our expectations are and what we think great performance looks like, so they're clear about what we're expecting from them. Showing a warm welcome refers to the fact that first impressions last. And the idea here is that we should make sure that their first day at the office is being planned, that they're integrated properly into the company, and that they're left with an excellent first impression of where they're going to be working. Nobody's job is just anything. It's very important for people to feel that their jobs are valued and that they are valued and that they belong. Here we have two, which they're exclusive ideas, but really they're connected here. We need to create feelings of community and at the same time autonomy. Again, if we feel that we trust them first, it means we also trust them to have a certain amount of autonomy over their job, but at the same time we have to try to create a feeling of community between them and the other people in the company. We should show our appreciation. Now, this means that we give a recognition so that they feel valued and appreciated. It's important here as well to treat people fairly, but not necessarily the same. We'll look at that in a moment as well. We should also avoid praising and giving feedback in the same conversation. We should separate the two out. Praise as much as possible, but give feedback in its own session. We need to get to know the whole person. As mentioned before, nobody has a job which is just a job, but no employee is just an employee. We have to recognize the fact that they're a complete person, and we should try to get to know more about them outside their simple job description. The idea of helping employees achieve work-life balance means that, well, if work affects their personal life, we must also understand that their personal life affects their work. And we have to ensure a work-life balance. But this work-life balance depends on the agreement that they've reached with you and with the company. Perhaps they don't want a personal life or free time and they just want to work all the time and make money, and lots of it. Well, if that's the agreement you've reached with them, that might be the work-life balance that they're looking for. If it's not, however, you also have to take that into account. Treating everyone fairly has two elements. The first means that you should not treat everybody necessarily the same, but you should treat everybody fairly. If people contribute less, then they should be rewarded less. Therefore, you do not treat everybody fairly. That's actually, it's unfair if you treat everybody the same. The second element of treat everyone fairly means absolutely no discrimination on any grounds. Now, linked to this means that if they don't get something like a promotion or a pay rise, you have to be clear with your feedback why they did not get this promotion or this pay rise, so that they know it is not because of discrimination, which is what people may initially think. Do what you're paid to do. Your employees, your followers, they might like you, but they will not trust you if you do not do the job you're paid to do. Related to this is the fact that you have to hold them accountable for the job they're being paid to do. And finally, have fun together. This is a little bit unusual because rather than being a rule, one of the 16 rules that creates trust, Bob Lee actually says this is a result of trust. He says that fun is the freedom to be yourself at work. And it happens because trust already exists. Now, one of the elements of fun at work is, well, that it should be natural. That's fair enough. But that also you should be ready to step in and establish what the limits to fun are. That means that if it's something that's unacceptable, well, it's unacceptable even if it's in the name of fun. This might be related to discrimination, which we talked about earlier. And the second thing is that if people are finding it a little bit difficult to get the ratio right between fun and work, you might have to step in and remind them that the reason they're at work is to work. So these are the 16 rules of trust, by Bob Lee, published in 2017. And that's number 18 in the 42 Ideas on Leadership.